From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
A sweet summer treat.
We've got customers that picked when they were a kid, now they're bringing their kids.
See what keeps people coming back to one berry farm in Arkansas. Ranchers are doing their part to tackle carbon emissions.
I'm Michelle Rook here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Stop number 2 on the Trust and Beef Sustainable Ranchers Tour.
As farmers in the Midwest hit hard by torrential rain and flooding start to tally the losses.
Farm places damaged, destroyed, equipment underwater.
How this could ultimately impact production right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Quentin Griffiths. Happening right now, farmers in some areas of the Midwest are starting to assess the damage after record flooding. Those areas hardest hit: Iowa, Minnesota, and South Dakota. Now, in some portions of northwest Iowa, it's estimated up to 15 inches of rain fell in just 2 days, the rain falling on already saturated ground, leading to massive flooding. Iowa's governor saying farmland in the area was hit hard. She also indicated the Des Moines, Rock, and Little Sioux Rivers broke flood level records at 16 levels in the state. AgriTalk speaking with Iowa's Agriculture Secretary Mike Nag as he toured the impacted areas.
We won't have a full sense of the crop damage. This was already a wet part of the state. There was already, some challenges around plant and replant, maybe some prevent plant that was going to be happening up in that, the Iowa Lake area. They've just been inundated with rain throughout the spring. But, we won't know the full impact. How long will that water sit? Of course, that's the big question. But what we're hearing about is, certainly farm places damaged, destroyed, equipment underwater, livestock facilities that, folks are having trouble getting to because of washed out roads.
In South Dakota, the state's governor declared a statewide emergency with more flooding expected yesterday. And President Biden has approved a disaster declaration, freeing up federal funds for relief efforts. In Minnesota, the failure of a dam appears imminent. The Rapidan Dam is located near Mankato, and officials in Blue Earth County warned it was in, quote, imminent failure condition. The dam impacted by recent flooding on the Blue Earth River. Minnesota receiving about 18 inches of rain over the last few weeks, with more rain on the way. One crop consultant estimating there might be 500,000 to 1 million corn acres lost due to the excessively wet conditions and flooding in the northwestern Corn Belt. And crop conditions continue to be impacted right now by both rain and drought. USDA releasing its latest crop progress report saying that 69% of the corn crop is now in good to excellent condition. That's down 3% from last week. For soybeans, 67% is in good to excellent condition. That's also down 3%.
Both corn and soybeans are starting to enter reproductive phases of development.
Winter wheat harvest continuing to move ahead at a blistering pace. 40% now completed, well ahead of the 5-year average of 25%. And more areas of the Midwest could be in for rain today. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has the very latest for us. Matt?
Yeah, we got another piece of energy moving through the atmosphere. Now, I'm not expecting widespread severe weather like what we had on Tuesday, but as the system starts to wrap up, we're going to see more showers and rain move through Wednesday and early Thursday morning through the Midwest. You see the circle right here. That is going to be responsible for some extreme heat back into Texas and Oklahoma with that ridge of high pressure and a shallow trough digging back over here. This is early Thursday morning within the jet stream. Now, so what that means is the heavier rainfall, perhaps some severe weather will be possible back up here into the northeast with another trough trying to dig through parts of the west coast. So you see this pattern. That is going to be our next chance of some widespread showers, perhaps some thunderstorms into the weekend and next week before ridge of high pressure starts to really take over. So again, there's Thursday morning into Thursday afternoon. And you start to see that trough, that ridge, kind of shallow out into a more zonal flow by Friday morning and Friday afternoon. And here's more on the dam in Minnesota. The surge of floodwaters proving too much for the 110-plus-year-old barrier. Debris that blocked the dam forced the waters of the Blue Earth River to bypass it, carving a detour around and taking anything in its path. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
U.S. Ambassador Ken Salazar is now praising Mexico's effort to protect American ag inspectors in Michoacan. It comes a week after the U.S. suspended avocado and mango inspections following an attack on 2 inspectors. Salazar traveling to the state, which has been plagued by violence linked to organized crime. While there, he met with state and federal officials. Salazar says Michoacan authorities have agreed to a security plan to restart avocado exports. The cattle industry often gets a bad rap for their impact on carbon emissions, but strides are being made up and down the supply chain. AgDay's Michelle Rook traveled to Oklahoma to see how it's working on the ground.
Stop number 2 on the Trust in Beef Sustainable Ranchers Tour brought us here to Stillwater, Oklahoma, where producers are learning more about how climate-smart practices can keep them resilient for the future. Mother Nature continues to present the biggest challenge for Oklahoma ranchers, but they're learning from each other the best ways to climate-proof their land.
Weather's always a factor, but you know, when you really apply good conservation practices on the ground, you can start helping mitigate that some. And so that's the reason we're here, is to see what practices people are putting on the ground.
That includes the climate-smart practices Bertram cattle use that help them avoid culling the herd after 3 years of historic drought.
By rotationally grazing or letting these pasture areas rest, we've just done better to regenerate the land and help those pastures rest.
Bertrams are also using data and technology to make management decisions and advised others to do the same.
Data is really foundational in being able to describe your ecosystem and your environment, your production outcomes and things of that nature. That way you can use that to make better decisions down the road.
NRCS also demoed a rain simulator to show how grazing management impacts water infiltration,
which ultimately affects the plant growth, the carbon that's pumped into the soil, it affects the water cycle, all of that.
Trust in Beef partners participated in the tour as well and shared how they're working with producers to lower their carbon footprint.
Being able to connect the data all the way back from the rail all the way back to the farm of origin and share the data on animal performance and ultimately the impact of practices on their carbon intensity is where we're planning to go over time.
Genetics and sustainability play a key role together. For any operation to be sustainable, they have to be profitable, and that's where genetics come into play.
The more efficiently we can grow and raise an animal, the more sustainable we are, not just from a profitability standpoint, but even from an environmental standpoint.
Animal handling and welfare is another pillar of sustainability, and the tour provided a chance for participants to get BQA certified.
Beef Quality Assurance is a program that really addresses the piece around the animals, and it also touches the people and the environment, because we do cover how to take good care of the animals in the context of the environment they're in.
Retailers like Lopez Dorado, one of McDonald's main suppliers, also shared how ranchers fit into their sustainability goals.
We're going to have to start supplying the same amount of food and raising the same amount of animals, but with less resources.
And this paradigm shift benefits both producers and consumers. In Oklahoma, I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Grains fall on Tuesday to fresh lows despite these weather issues. We'll talk markets next. And later, we're off to Arkansas for a sweet start to berry season. How this farmer is using the crop to grow an agritourism business at home in the country. Another method of making electricity has just hit a milestone. A California utility is backing the largest new geothermal power development in the U.S. Now, it involves 400 megawatts of clean electricity from the Earth's heat. That's enough to electrify 400,000 homes. Southern California Edison says it will purchase the electricity from Fervo Energy. Now, Fervo says it's drilling up to 125 wells in southwest Utah Experts say geothermal electricity like this cuts the need for traditional power plants. Cape Station, about 200 miles south of Salt Lake City, is expected to start delivering electricity to California as early as 2026. Lower condition ratings and flooding weren't enough to pull grain prices higher. Michelle Rook is back with Tuesday's trade and markets now.
Another bloodbath in the grains on Tuesday. Don Rose is back with analysis. Well, we saw some massive fund selling pressure in the grains, Don, and new contract lows in both new crop corn and soybeans. Why have the funds been in sell mode?
Well, I think when you look at it, Michelle, this is the most dangerous time of the year coming out of Memorial Day week. And if the crops look like we're marching to a crop, we take some risk premium out. Funds went into this Memorial Day weekend short, and they just kept pressing it here. There hasn't been a technical let up here yet. So a lot of risk premium out of the market right now, Michelle.
I was going to say, we don't have much weather premium in at all. The market seems to be kind of ignoring things like the flooding that we're seeing in parts of the Midwest.
Yeah, much like we've seen in some of these years past where we had some big issues, and I'd call them pretty big issues up in parts of the upper Midwest. 1993, the derecho year 2020, we had kind of a little bit of a delayed reaction. So let's see if we get some of that occurring. Always watch the crop ratings. If the crop's getting smaller, usually we start to stabilize and move up. Problem this year, we started out just too lofty. We're still about 19% over a year ago on corn ratings, and it's about 16% on soybean ratings.
Do you think we're selling up as well going into the reports, especially with quarterly stocks, which are going to be bigger than a year ago?
Yeah, I think when you look at it from the fear factor is, I know basis levels are tight, which, you can say the stocks are going to be bullish. That's possible. But we're still running, as of June 1, corn stocks 19% over a year ago, soybean stocks 21% over a year ago, and the wheat about 19% or 20% over a year ago.
And technically, new contract lows in corn and beans in the new crop category. Where do we find the next support?
Yeah, you put it in perspective on the soybean corn 2.5-year lows. Soybeans, we went to 11.07 this year. The last time we went under 11 was back in 2020. So this round number, $11, big support on the soybeans. On new crop corn, big support, $4.40 on the corn.
Thanks for joining us, Don Rose, U.S. Commodities. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
We're looking at that temperature outlook between June 30th and July 4th, and you can kind of get the sense of that pattern. Ridge of high pressure dominating parts of the southeast and also back up here into parts of Texas and Oklahoma. A really good chance of above normal temperatures through those locations. That being said, right where we transition from above normal temperatures to below normal temperatures, including the Dakotas, and also into Montana. Right along that, we may start to see some more showers and thunderstorms roll through. Again, that's the 30th through July 4th. The way this looks like, the way it looks on the jet stream, within the jet stream, is we're going to get not only a trough and ridge developing, that kind of pattern into the weekend, but things start to soften out and the ridge is going to take over. So let me show you this. So this is on Wednesday. There's a ridge that we looked at earlier today, a bit of a trough starting to dig. On Thursday and Friday, back up into the northeast with another one that's going to come through. Now, this ridge is going to be strong enough that the energy from this trough isn't going to dig south. It's going to go from west to east, kind of setting up more zonal flow. So that's where our next chance of rain will start to come in play, both Friday and into early Saturday. Not a very robust system, as we're not going to be digging so much with the upper level part of the atmosphere, the jet stream, which is what we're looking at, but enough that we'll get more widespread showers, possibly garden variety type showers rather than severe weather Friday into Saturday, back up here through the Dakotas, Minnesota, and even into Wisconsin. But look at this starting to show up in the data. This is the jet stream coming in on Saturday with that ridge being a really big factor in that forecast. A trough is going to try to dig with that ridge retreating and strengthening back out here Monday and Tuesday. With where this is situated, we're looking at quiet weather for the most part into 4th of July, unless we get a little bit more energy, but we're going to get more of a softer, shallow jet stream because of that feature right there. Cortez, Colorado, partly cloudy, high around 88 degrees, low of 60. Caitlin, New York, got some evening showers, high around 83, low of 58. Apple Valley, Minnesota, partly cloudy, high of 76 degrees and a low of 58.
New union contract talks could impact pork exports later this year. We'll have details next. And meet an Arkansas grower sharing his crop of berries with happy customers today in the country. An important labor contract is due to expire later this year, and an impasse could impact pork exports. The labor contract for longshoremen working east and Gulf Coast ports expires in September, and right now the two sides are not even at the bargaining table. And U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Halstrom says that's a growing concern for meat exporters and for all of U.S. agriculture.
September 30th sounds like a long way away, but for a complex agreement like this, we're definitely coming down to crunch time. While the West Coast ports are probably a little bit more critical to our business with all the Asian traffic, the East and Gulf ports are still critical as well for the rest of the world. About 45% of our waterborne pork exports go through the Gulf and East Coast, and I think it's around 25 or 30% on the beef side. So that is a significant portion of our business.
Unlike some past negotiations, the Longshoremen's Union has said its members will not continue to move cargo past the September deadline. Something that could have an impact on livestock producers overseas, Denmark is set to implement a carbon tax on livestock producers there. Officials say it's needed to meet its 2030 target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 70% from 1990 levels. Now, the tax will be 300 Danish crowns, or about $43 per metric ton of carbon dioxide in 2030. But farmers could get a 60% income tax deduction, which would reduce that tax by close to half. The plan was agreed upon by farmers, industry, labor unions, and environmentalists. It needs parliamentary approval, but it is expected to pass. Farming is Denmark's largest source of carbon dioxide emissions, according to officials. Feeding the public is a great reason to be a farmer. Up next, how this Arkansas berry grower is sharing his harvest with tourists while building a destination in the country. Berry season is underway in Arkansas. The Arkansas Farm Bureau talked with one producer in Washington County about why he decided to start growing berries and get into agritourism.
We bought 10 acres here outside Tawnytown. I have a 2-cow herd because you don't make a lot of money off cattle on 10 acres. So I decided to go to what was the highest return per acre. Blueberries was the key. My wife was a teacher. I was a full-time UPS driver. You see, like down there. So when I first started out, we were packing them, hiring pickers, and putting them in those clamshells that you see in the stores. Over time, we started getting more pick your own. And so we had people coming in, but you know, in the first few years, if we had, 3 cars, we were totally excited. Now, on average day that we're open, we'll have 50 plus. We start with raspberries, and they're right over here. We have black raspberries, red raspberries, golden raspberries, purple raspberries that are royalty, and a rare cross called white berries. Normally, we start picking raspberries at the end of May, and their season will be about 4 weeks. And about a week after they start, then our blueberries start. And so during that time at the beginning, there's about 2 or 3 weeks when we're doing raspberries and blueberries. And about the 3rd week, that's when the blackberries will start kicking in. We've got about 7 different varieties of blueberries, and the timing of those is what's important. You have an early variety that, when the season starts, we have our customers, and it's actually right here, 13 through 20. There's about an acre right there. We have about an acre of blackberries, and it started about a week ago, and it'll go through most of July. Agritourism as a whole is growing phenomenally, and so a lot of people just want to come out to experience the farm, and so that's one of the things that we can provide. and it actually has gotten much more popular over the years. Built up the clientele and the customers to where there's a lot of them that have been coming here for, well, literally decades. We've got customers that picked when they were a kid, now they're bringing their kids. And they're not really there for the berries, they're there for the experience. And so we kind of provide an educational time for them to learn about farming and what it entails, and have them go out and pick the berries themselves.
And our thanks to the Arkansas Farm Bureau for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clint Griffiths. Have a great day.